A reading from the book of Genesis. Israel loved Joseph best of all his sons, for he was the child of his old age, and he had made him a long tunic. When his brothers saw that their father loved him best of all his sons, they hated him so much that they would not even greet him. One day, when his brothers had gone to pasture their father's flocks at Shechem, Israel said to Joseph, "Your brothers, you know, are tending our flocks at Shechem. Get ready, I will send you to them." So Joseph went after his brothers and caught up with them in Dothan. They noticed him from a distance, and before he came up to them, they plotted to kill him. They said to one another, "Here comes that master dreamer. Come on, let us kill him and throw him into one of the cisterns here. We could say that a wild beast devoured him. We shall then see what comes of his dreams." When Reuben heard this, he tried to save him from their hands, saying, "We must not take his life. Instead of shedding blood," he continued, "just throw him into the cistern there in the desert, but do not kill him outright." His purpose was to rescue him from their hands and return him to his father. So when Joseph came up to them, they stripped him of the long tunic he had on. Then they took him and threw him into the cistern, which was empty and dry. They then sat down to their meal. Looking up, they saw a caravan of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead, their camels laden with gum, balm, and resin to be taken down to Egypt. Judah said to his brothers, "What is to be gained by killing our brother and concealing his blood? Rather, let us sell him to these Ishmaelites, instead of doing away with him ourselves. After all, he is our brother, our own flesh." His brothers agreed. They sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Remember the marvels the Lord has done.
Remember the marvels the Lord has done.
When the Lord called down a famine on the land and ruined the crop that sustained them, he sent a man before them, Joseph, sold as a slave.
Remember the marvels the Lord has done.
They had weighed him down with fetters, and he was bound with chains, till his prediction came to pass, and the word of the Lord proved him true.
Remember the marvels the Lord has done.
The king sent and released him. The ruler of the peoples set him free. He made him lord of his house and ruler of all his possessions.
Remember the marvels the Lord has done.
He gave his only begotten Son, so that everyone who believes in him might have eternal life.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ, King of endless glory.
Dominus vobiscum. Lectio Sancti Evangelii secundum Matteum. Gloria tibi, Domine. Jesus said to the chief priests and the elders of the people, "Hear another parable. There was a landowner who planted a vineyard, put a hedge around it, dug a winepress in it, and built a tower. Then he leased it to tenants and went on a journey. When vintage time drew near, he sent his servants to the tenants to obtain his produce. But the tenants seized the servants, and one they beat, another they killed, and a third they stoned. Again, he sent other servants, more numerous than the first ones, but they treated them in the same way. Finally, he sent his son to them, thinking, "They will respect my son." But when the tenants saw the son, they said to one another, "This is the heir. Come, let us kill him and acquire his inheritance." They seized him, threw him out of the vineyard, and killed him. What will the owner of the vineyard do to those tenants when he comes? They answered him, "He will put those wretched men to a wretched death and lease his vineyard to other tenants, who will give him the produce at the proper times." Jesus said to them, "Did you ever read in the scriptures? The stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. By the Lord has this been done, and it is wonderful in our eyes. Therefore I say to you, the kingdom of God will be taken away from you and given to a people that will produce its fruit." When the chief priests and the Pharisees heard his parables, they knew that he was speaking about them. And although they were attempting to arrest him, they feared the crowds, for they regarded him as a prophet. Verbum Domini. During the Last Supper, as Jesus was speaking to the disciples, giving them instruction, he said to them, "If the world hates me, it will hate you. If they persecute me, they will persecute you." Now, this message, of course, is for the disciples who were apostles, but it's also for us as well. In this parable today, Jesus is speaking about what's going to happen to him, how he will be rejected, persecuted, eventually beaten, and killed. We who share in the life of Jesus Christ through our baptism and more profoundly in our confirmation, we have these persecutions. So today we're going to talk about what this passage means and also speak a little bit about how we are victorious in these persecutions. So in the scriptures here, this parable, Jesus in this parable, he's saying that the landowner, of course, this landowner is God the Father. And the vineyard is the house of Israel. And the tenants, those who were signed over the vineyard or the house of Israel, are the chief priests, the Pharisees and scribes and so on. They were called to protect the vineyard. But yet in this parable, we see that the Father sends out servants, and these servants are the prophets, the men of God, those who speak on behalf of the Lord. The Old Testament prophets, as we know. And how are they treated? Well, they are persecuted. Some of them are killed. But then the owner says, "I'm going to send my son." And who's the son? Jesus himself. And Jesus says, "Yep, same here too. This is the heir. Let's take the inheritance from him." And they kill him. But yet, Jesus speaks about his victory in all of this. He's the one who is the cornerstone. And in those days, the cornerstone was the stone that joined two walls together. And it kept the building strong, fortified, standing up. Jesus is this cornerstone here. And when the Pharisees heard this, the chief priests, they were upset. Why? Well, the temple in the time of Jesus was, it was mostly built up, but some parts of it were still being constructed. So, they says, well, who are you? Are you saying, Jesus has already said he's the temple in this context here. He's already, before this event here, he's told them, that they were the den of thieves, and he says that he is the temple, that in 3 days he will be the temple. He will rise in 3 days. The temple, there'll be a new temple. Well, so they're upset about all of these things here. But yet Jesus is this cornerstone, and the stone rejected by the builders is the chief cornerstone. This is him here. And for us, my brothers and sisters, we are persecuted too. When we come in our baptism, we share in the life of Jesus. When we say yes to Jesus, we have a relationship with him, we live like him. And by the grace of baptism, we become another Christ. And by becoming another Christ, we share in everything the Lord has. It's an inheritance given to us. And that means that, we share in the glory of the Lord, the life of the Lord. But a part of this life, there's going to be some persecutions. We're going to be rejected. And this hurts. Okay? Sometimes this will occur in our family life, in the neighborhoods we live in. Maybe the places where we go and socialize, the club, the gym, sometimes even in the workplace. But the disciples, the early disciples, the people of the early church, they welcomed this. Well, this seemed like crazy. Well, why would they accept something like this? Because they saw that they were sharing in the life of Jesus Christ. And for them, this was joyful. This is a great interior joy of being more united to Jesus Christ. So this is something that we should all welcome on being persecuted. Though it hurts. But we're living like Jesus. This is a good thing. But sometimes this occurs, like I said, as I was saying, in the workplace. We'd be at work and, you're a good Catholic Christian man, and then you have co-workers, and the gossip may be going on. Or they may be talking dirty jokes. Well, we should step away from these. We shouldn't participate in things like that. And when we don't, here comes the persecution. Well, who do you think you are? They ask you what you're doing on the weekends. I was at church, or what you do last night, or hey, I was at a Bible study. And a lot of times we'll be mocked for these things. I remember back in my young days, going back 20-some years ago or so, working. I used to, work in a warehouse and when I was really young, after high school. And they would make fun of me because I wear shirts that say, Jesus on it or something, or I'd say I went to Bible study during the weekend and all of that, and I didn't participate in the dirty jokes, so they made fun of me, they mocked me, they were all the time. And however, like with all of us, like I'm saying here, Jesus says, he's the stone rejected by the builders, but this is the cornerstone. This is an important stone, and we too will be like this stone. Jesus, the Lord, as we're called to follow him and being another Christ, he will not let us be put to shame. Jesus was persecuted, he was rejected, he was killed, but he rose again. And that's what we receive too as well. We will rise again. And remember, I worked for this company for 7 years, went did a little promoting and things like that. But after a while, I was respected. When somebody had a problem, where do they come to? They came to me to ask for prayers. What does the Bible say about this? What does the church say about this? So the same will happen to us. Even in the family life, too. The family may be rejecting you, they may be mocking you and all of that. But sooner or later, when the hard times come, who are they going to go to? The person who has the foundation, who's the foundation of Jesus Christ. Because they know that you have peace, even through your trials, even through the hard times. They know that you're happy, and they'll eventually want this. So it will come. Yeah, again, we die with Christ, but we rise with him. We need to remember that. As Christians who are persecuted, especially in this country, there are some who are persecuted very severely here, but there are some who are worse off in other nations. You look at like the Middle East. Look at Africa, Nigeria specifically, North Korea. These people are often beaten. They're arrested. Some of them, they're taken out of their homes. These Christians are forced to be refugees. They vandalize the churches, even burn some down, and some people are even killed. These, of course, are efforts that we got to support. We got to pray for these people who are under this horrific persecution. We've done prayers here, for persecuted Christians. I know the Knights of Columbus have initiated things. Last week on EWTN News Nightly, there was a young lady who founded an organization. Her name is Gia, and it's called March for the Martyrs. And she was speaking about how this organization is like raising money to help persecuted Christians in other countries to support them. They're also it's going to be an ecumenical effort, but they're planning this march in Long Beach in May. So if you're those who live in California, Southern California, you can go out and be part of this march for persecuted Christians and support the cause. But my brothers and sisters, again, these persecutions are going to come. Yes, they persecuted. Jesus says, they persecuted me, they'll persecute you. They hated me, they'll hate you. But then he says, if they reject you, they reject me. If they reject me, they reject the one who sent me. See, our call is to pray for these people who persecute us. Pray for persecutors, pray for their conversion. God will take care of them. He will handle it. Give it to him. Remember, we share the death of Jesus. We rise with him. Jesus says, blessed are those who are persecuted for the sake of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. He tells us after that, he says, blessed are you who, when men revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of false things against you, he says, your reward will be great in the kingdom of heaven. See, so we have such great hope. God is always with us. In these persecutions, we see even more of Christ operating in us, more of the Holy Spirit active in us. So this is something, again, that we need to welcome. And with that, remember the words of St. Paul. Always remember these great words. He says, for this momentary affliction is preparing us for a glory beyond all comparison. And this glory is life in God and life with God for all eternity. Hang in there. God bless you all.